am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, veteran White House correspondent and Time and Newsweek alum Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days our lawmakers too. On this week's episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, President Joe Biden delivered his first address to a joint session of Congress on Wednesday night. But since this is his first address, it's not technically called a State of the Union speech. It is an annual message. Did you know that? Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, he spoke to less than 200 lawmakers and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. History made when behind the president stood Vice President Kamala Harris and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, a first for all women, a first for women of color. And stick around for a rare disagreement between Matt and Halli. And stick around for a rare disagreement between Matt and Halli over Republican Senator Tim Scott's response to President Biden's speech. But that's not all. Former Mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani, once a beloved figure in America, had his home and office searched by federal agents as part of a lobbying probe. We discuss COVID-19 and the stubborn who won't get the jab, the advice of Democratic Party guru James Carville. Will the woke listen? There's a lot more. Navalny, Matt Gaetz, Val Demers. Hang on to your hats. It's Halli and Matt time. Here we go. Good morning, Matthew.
Hey, good morning, Halli. How are you?
You know I'm having a bad day. You know that.
I know now. Tell us what's going on.
No, because it's so...
To the degree you can.
It's so stupid, I don't even want to tell you. That's how dumb I am. I can be dumb sometimes. I did something so stupid, and it cost me a day of my life. But okay, we're recovering. And I told Matt before we aired, I'm not up to my game. And he's going to carry the ball, like he always does anyway. But here we go. Listen, I just want to jump in because since last week's podcast, which remember last week, we were on Derek Chauvin, rogue cop, guilty, right? That's where we left off last week. And this week, this is crazy. We got rogue mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Can't wait to get to talk about that, because I got a lot to say on that. But we're going to start with President Biden's, not Obama, President Biden's address to Congress. And I'm going to let you start with your overall.
First, Halli, I hope whatever happened, you recover fully. If you're really out of it right now, I'd like to get you to sign over your deed of your house to me, or do anything else I can take advantage of financially.
Thank you, darling.
While you're in a vulnerable position, so I can make some profit on your loss.
Thank you, sir. It's sad, isn't it? Oh my God.
Okay. Sign right here.
Yeah, in the dotted line. Uh-huh.
Well, look, let's just leave the substance out for 1 second. I think as delivery, of course, it was so unique because of the COVID situation with a very sparsely attended ceremony. It had a very different feel. Normally so much of the speech delivered by any president is governed by the applause, the theatrics of pointing to people on the balcony who've done something exemplary. So this had a much more sort of intimate feel, really a little more fireside chat than podium thumping, grand oration. Part of that's owing to Biden's more subdued style, but really the circumstances unique in the hall. And I think that helped him, just from a oratorical and TV presentation view. I think that kind of played to his strengths. I think it would have been tougher for Obama in that kind of room where he couldn't be all sort of speechy, or tough for Clinton in that room. I think that was a room that sort of was suited to Biden. So I think that was one thing that kind of went in his favor. And then, of course, there was the, breakthrough moment of two women behind him, which really is a big event. And, of course, I don't think we've ever had a speaker and a vice president at the same time from the same place. They're both from the Bay Area. They've known each other a long time. I mean, it's quite a concentration of political power in one state, let alone one city. Okay, so as for the substance, I thought he did well. State of the Union addresses, of which this was not formally, but it was in kind. Are normally not great speeches because they have to tick off so many things and they're a little laundry listy. And, speaking of France, we need to do this. But in this, and this suffered from some of that, especially trends. But, in this case, I think he did a pretty good job of kind of making the case for his big, progressive plans. I think the fact that he sort of speaks moderately, but is governing lefty is kind of helping him, at least so far. Now, maybe that'll all fall apart, but so far it's kind of working, both in terms of getting stuff passed, but also his poll numbers. I think, as my colleague Bill Scheer pointed out, there were no red lines in the sand, no veto threats. It was very much a sort of setting up the stage for negotiating with Republicans on these things. He's very generous towards them. I think that's partly his style, but I think it's also a recognition that he's going to have to work with them on some of the stuff that he may not be able to get there solely on Democratic votes. The Manchin won't let him. So we're gonna see. But I thought overall he did quite well with the subject matter and the forum. I don't think it's not going to go down in history as tear down this wall.
No.
I thought he did pretty well. What was your take?
Well, through my stupor, and trust me when I tell you I was in a stupor, the thing that stood out to me the most, and first of all, this is a very gracious man. I don't even know that they make men like that anymore, but there he is. And so, even his nod to McConnell about, the cancer thing, naming it for Hunter, for his late son. I mean, he's just a gracious man. So he leans into that lectern and he knows how to modulate his voice. He goes soft and then so his delivery, I thought, he's got a lot of practice, was pretty gosh darn good. So I like that. 7 in 10 this morning polled said that they were optimistic as a result of listening to it. And that's the thing. After this doomsday wackadoodle stuff that we were getting for the last 5 years from, the FG guy, it's lovely to listen to somebody speaking on a positive note and applauding America, and we're back to that. So I think those things were good. Ted Cruz sleeping, I thought that was good. It's like, okay.
Well, when you've been at the beach all day.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 feeds on Twitter, both of which I follow. This is like the last angry man, and he's got his team out there screaming bloody murder 24/7. He needs. But Biden and I'm going to use this loosely, but Biden is Robin Hood. He's just I said it last week. I've said it before. He's the right man for the job at this particular time in American history. It's what we need. We need a daddy, and he comes across, I don't know if he comes across as quote unquote Robin Hood, although he wants to take from the rich and give to the poor, and he's right about that. But there's something, I don't know, genteel about him, or sweet about him, or gracious, as I said, about him. And that's a good thing, particularly when you're writhing in bed, not feeling so wonderful. But, Harris, and Tim Scott is where we need to go on this, because I think we know, there's no point in going over what his proposals are, because I think everybody pretty much knows it, and we know what the fights are going to be. Okay, fine. But it's all followed up with Tim Scott, senator from South Carolina, Republican, only black Republican, I believe, right? In the party, in the Senate.
Party in the Senate.
In the Senate. Uncle Tim, I'm sorry.
No.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was appalled. And
I think that's very unfair.
I know you think it's unfair and it's whatever,
yeah.
but but I found him appalling. There's so much good he can do, just like Harris. But, anybody who's in power now, who's a person of color, this is a wonderful moment for that. So I think you have to walk a very fine line. Now Senator Harris, Vice President Harris said something that I also was not happy with. So, this is equal opportunity. But I am deeply concerned that, he was trying to walk.
Well, it's not equal opportunity. You used an epithet about.
Well, let me wait. I'm going to get to Vice President Harris in a second. Let me just finish on him. He had to walk a line between being a Republican and a party guy and being a black man. Nobody's going to tell you that's a tough line to walk. I'll give him that.
No,
You don't think so?
Okay.
So you're getting mad at me?
No, I don't think so. Well, I'm not mad at you. You're great, and I'll attribute this to you being in a stupor. But I mean, look.
Go ahead.
Millions.
I'll give it to you.
I think Trump picked up about 7-8% of the black vote, more than last time. That's millions of African Americans who voted for him. It's not nearly as many who voted for the Democrat candidate, but there are millions of black conservatives who don't believe in a lot more government, and don't believe in have a lot of problems with affirmative action and other things. And he articulated that point of view held by a not insignificant number of African Americans. And even if it were a smaller number, I think to impugn his motives or say he's a weak sister or Uncle Tom, which is a phrase I'm only repeating, it's just, I think it's grotesquely unfair. Look, this is a guy who, had started out to the degree he was in politics as a Democrat. He had a switch like a lot of people do from one party to another. I think, look, if you don't like what he said, that's fine. Take it at face value. But I do not think it's fair to call him that. And look, again, I don't think it's a choice between being an authentic black versus being a Republican. Look, there are people who are African Americans who don't, they're heterodox and they don't.
They what? I didn't hear what you said. They're what?
Heterodox.
Oh, okay.
And they don't support everything.
Okay, I'm not talking policy. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking policy. I am talking about this. Vice President Harris also said this is not a racist country, but we need to speak truth about history. I disagree with both of them because he said it's not a racist country. The entire reason for the existence of the current Republican Party is about racism. And to say it's not is crap. That's where I'm coming from. So when you get, it's a difficult situation, but I think we have to be realistic about it too, because sweeping it all under the rug. I don't know one Republican, not one, who when I get to speak to them as just, in my daily life, and I have many friends who are Republicans, it always gets down to race with them. And that is the issue. That's what these white supremacists are. That's what Laura Boehler and Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is the party, and they're all playing it, Matt. And so to excuse it or to, the word that came to mind, I'm not going to edit myself because I don't feel well enough to edit myself. I'm going to say whitewash. Enough. It is what it is. You do not see that there is a problem within the Republican Party about racism and white supremacy?
Well, look, I think there is a problem. I don't think, being a conservative is synonymous with being racist. And I don't have any reason to think Liz Cheney's a racist or,
she's the only one who isn't, as we well know. We're going to talk about her in a minute. But I guess what I'm saying to you is, why did they pick Tim Scott to do the answer to,
they obviously thought there was political advantage to having him speak, just as they did have Marco Rubio do a reply a few years ago. I mean, they want to strengthen their hand not only with minorities but with people who care what minorities think. And this was, and look, if you want to say this was a cynical move to have him do it, that's fine. And if you don't like what he said, that's fine too. I just don't think he is a supplicant by.
Well, then we agree to disagree, because there's no, which is fair, because there's no way out of that kind of thing. But I do want to say that this party has an issue with race. And so
I'm not disagreeing.
No, I know. So I can, if the party, somebody has to stand up to it, because otherwise that's only going to get worse. Because it's not just, the national party. The states have the same issues in the state, at the state level, with how they govern because of this issue, i.e. voter suppression that we're seeing in Florida and in Arizona and wherever else, and Georgia. So it is an issue. So therefore, until this issue is resolved within that party, which ideologically on many levels I agree with, you know that, it's a problem. And so I'm going to stick with what I said and wish that he had not allowed himself to allow them to use them, even if in his own head he was saying, I'm a conservative and I'm fighting for conservative values. I just don't think
Correct.
I just don't think
okay.
Okay, so we're good. You got it.
I get where you're coming from.
Okay. So, and then for Vice President Harris to say the same thing, which is also walking that, it's like I said, there's nothing good here. There's no, we are where we are on this issue of racism, and gosh, I wish that's not where we were, but that's where we are. 100 days, DAYS. So that's today, right? Today's the 100th day of Biden's administration. I worked with the Doors on their books and movie, blah, 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 blah. I keep going back to Jim Morrison, Strange Days, DAZE. And I was thinking that because the Republicans in one odd sense, looking at them and how they were even dealing with what they were hearing, it's like they're in a daze in a way. Do you get that feeling? They don't know where to go. They can't hit him. They can't knock him on the knee and make him fall, Biden. So it's interesting.
Yeah, they're a little flummoxed by him, but they have a lot of legislative power, and they can wear him down. Things tend to lose momentum over time. Entropy sets in, and that's the case with legislation. And if this thing sits all summer, I think its chances will go down every week. So. Yeah, I think the Republicans are definitely flushed by him, and that's why they're reduced to just talking about Dr. Seuss. And,
I could have used a Republican reading me Dr. Seuss last night when I was
right.
It was that would have been good.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely off their mark. Look, I think Biden is right is that there's been a shift in views towards government. I mean, after having the whole country on the dole. This year, I think people are not. The idea of spending trillions on these things is just not as it's not as toxic as it would have been without the pandemic. And so Republicans are a little, betwixt and between. They support what's really a sizable, although I think inadequate, infrastructure package. But at least they're talking big packages, so they can't go back to. As long as they're proposing big spending, they've all signed on to huge spending over the last year. Right. It's harder for them to sort of go back to the standard tax and spend, worrying about deficits. He's got him in a good place now, but
cautions throw caution to the wind. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I do think this though. I do think that Americans getting a taste of the government doing good things for them. Including Republicans, is, it can become addictive. Like, who knew if you sent me $1,400, my life could change this much? Maybe the government can do something good for me. Maybe things haven't been equal. The rich have been too rich and we haven't been. So I think there's that also. And I think that's going to prove very interesting because I think the people are with the president on the programs, if not on him, because he's a Democrat. Right. So the polls show that.
I think that's that. Yeah, exactly. I think they're banking on that.
I don't think they're just banging it. I think they've got it. I mean, who's going to turn down $1,400? Who's going to turn down a whole bunch of health insurance? Who's going to turn down, a child care payment for $300 a month for each kid? Once you had, it's like, I tasted blood. Delicious.
You've always said yes. No, I agree. I think the public's there on things, but, the Republicans can just wear it down over time. I mean, look, all these
how
things
pessimistic.
They poll and test well at the beginning. When Hillary polled and tested great, when it first got rolled out. But, they had a good way of putting it down after a while until they killed it. And
here's the difference.
I'm not saying that's going to happen here.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm going to give you the difference. The difference is this is the first time that people actually got the money into their bank accounts as pure hard cash. And that,
no question.
Yeah. That changed a lot of lives. A lot of lives. Did we hit it all on the subject of
on last night?
Yeah. Did we get it all?
Well, you're a woman person. How did you feel about seeing the two of them behind bars?
I've been
no big deal, or was it kind of a emotional moment?
It's interesting.
I'm being serious.
No, I know you are, and I'm going to be serious too. I mean, I've been a feminist for all my life. I mean, I always, when I was a young girl, before it was like a thing, I was always fighting for equal rights for girls. Don't ask me why. I mean, maybe because my father was a very powerful kind of male figure, in an all-woman house. I don't know. But I sort of, and I've done my own thing and didn't live a conventional female life. So that being said, no, until it was pointed out, I have to be honest, I didn't even think about it. Once it was, how lovely, how wonderful, how time moves forward. It should be past that. There should be a woman president, never happy with how it is. I want more. So it turned out to be, it was, it was a lovely, it was lovely. It's terrific. It's great. Can't hurt. And, okay. But, I wasn't like, oh my God, 2 women behind the president. I want 2 women. Yeah. I want 2 men behind the woman president. That is progress to me. So,
right.
Yeah. So that's where I took it. Sorry if that's not enough for some people. It was a good thing, but okay, fine.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah. So that's just me. So let's get to Rudy Giuliani and the raid on his house yesterday, because to me, how they fall, my God. Once the man we all adored, not me ever, I never liked him, but everybody else loved, how they do fall. And geez, it's interesting. The first thing that I read on this, Matt, was Rick Wilson, the Never Trumper founder.
Yeah.
Who no, actually it wasn't. It was Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen said, ta-ta, Rudy. It's over.
Right.
I thought of Rick, here we go, folks, I think was the quote. But I was thinking of Rick Wilson, because everything Trump touches dies, and there it is. But the other thing that came to mind on all of this, and I'm going to have you give it to you for a few minutes to recap and your thoughts, was Trump he asked for the pardon, and he didn't get the pardon from Trump. And I think that comes to play in all of this. Anyway, what happened yesterday? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's really extraordinary, because it's first of all, because he was, such a prominent politician and such a prominent defender of the president. For him to be, subject to a search is really something. But what makes it really a nuclear level event is that he's the president's personal lawyer, and normally there's almost never anything like this for a client's attorney, because of fears of violating attorney-client privilege, which is sacrosanct. And you have to convince the court that there is an exceedingly high likelihood that the attorney and the client are both engaged in criminal behavior together to get a warrant like this. And I'm sure, given everything, no judge No judge would do this lightly, and I don't think the FBI would ask for it lightly, but apparently the FBI has been asking for it for a while, and Bill Barr and the Trump Justice Department sat on it. Merrick Garland has a different view. They got the permission from the judge, and so Rudy Giuliani's apartment and law office, both in Manhattan, were scoured, according to Giuliani's people, because they looked for anything related to his Ukraine work, and took him, and with focusing on hard drives and phones, and I think we'll know before too long what was on there, and that's pretty serious, and that's really serious. Now it sounds like the crime they're going after him on is that he was essentially a foreign agent, but he didn't register as such, which is a crime, carries a serious penalty, but it's not always prosecuted. And so I think that is something, the Trump Giuliani folks are going to make a lot of, that this is selective prosecution, this is deep state, this is Joe Biden, this is Hunter Biden, this is all political. And I think they're gonna lean heavily into that. We'll know if there's an indictment. We'll know for sure whether that's true. I don't think it is at all. But we'll see what kind of evidence the government puts forward.
I think it's more than that.
It's really an extraordinary moment.
Yeah, I think it's more than that. Frankly, they also raided Victoria Tensing and Joe Genova's house. And for those of you who only know those two from Fox News, let me tell you that they go all the way back to the Clinton impeachment. They are two very rabid right-wing Republicans, Victoria Tensing and Joe Genova.
Well, actually, if I can interrupt, they were not always right. They were very moderate.
Now, see, I always read that way. I read them as being. I never liked them. Never. I always thought they were shady. I was just a kid, by the way, when that all happened. So were you.
You're still a kid.
But I think there's more to this story than just whether they were acting as, foreign, whatever. It is interesting that it's Ukraine, we think. We don't even know for sure, but because, Biden has a lot on that. First, his kid, and the harassment they put him through, and Putin is involved in all of this. And this goes to trying to fix an election. This is deep stuff. This goes right to the core of it, I think, of what exactly happened, with all of that. So I think it's much, they look at it's kind of like you get Al Capone on the tax returns, right? And but like you said, and said perfectly correctly, they had their ducks in a row or they wouldn't have gone in, and that's amazing. I did read this morning, Matt, that Devin Nunes might be involved in all of this. That would be an added bonus, because he's a pretty hateful kind of guy who got very silent. So my guess is he's known he was in trouble for a while and he's just trying to keep under the radar. But this is huge. I don't think we can and Trump was out there first thing this morning, right? Saying this is a travesty. It's the beloved mayor. I mean, he's got to be worried, more than any of them, because all of this goes back to him. Yes, no?
I would think, I would think so. Although I think, I still believe prosecutors are going to be very hesitant to indict a former president.
I know you don't see it, but if the goods are there, well, here's my thought on that. If the goods are there and they do have something to prosecute Trump on, I don't see how they don't, because if the proof comes out that he should have been prosecuted, that just makes mincemeat of our judicial system and our whole system of democracy.
It depends what it is. I mean, there is prosecutorial discretion. You don't have to, indict everyone. I know. We'll see. We'll see what it is that he may or may not have done. But look, it's an extraordinary moment. And, Rudy Giuliani really perfected the art of the perp walk when he was the U.S. attorney and was very big on making sure the cameras were there when Wall Street criminals were let out in cuffs. He liked the theatrics of that. So to see the tables turn and all the cameras parked outside his apartment to catch shots of the police walking out with evidence, well, for anyone of a certain age who remembers that about me, it's really striking.
Like I said, boy, how'd they fall. Jeez, right? I mean, whoa. Yeah, it's almost like it leaves you speechless in one sense, because it's so horrible. Did they allow hair dye in prison?
I am probably in the canteen. You can get some, yeah.
Permanent or runny?
That's I'm sure it can be brought in contraband.
Yeah,
we can get anything.
Somebody's going to fall, and I guess I get to that because I say to you, somebody's going to go to prison. Because to purge all of this, somebody has to go to prison. And is it going to be Rudy?
Well, it's going to be embarrassing if they indict these figures and nobody gets convicted. So I don't know. We're gonna find out. Or are they going to try to get Rudy to flip on the former president?
Well, this is what I'm saying to you. Will they be? The feds are not going to let go of this because they were just messed with by the Trump administration on every level possible. And they've got a bone to pick with Barr, who took, the great Attorney General's office and made mincemeat out of it. So somebody's going to pay a price. I just wonder who it's going to be. And I don't know that Rudy is a big enough price. I think they're going for the prize. But like you said, we shall see. Right?
Yeah, but it's really an extraordinary moment.
It is.
To raid two attorneys and
jeez.
And look, let's not forget we've got all these Russian troops that were just amassed on the
border and who mysteriously retreated. This is why I said to you, I think, when I said Biden spoke with Putin, this is deep stuff. This is deep stuff. It's interesting about Biden. He didn't get where he got by being Mr. Nice Guy, the avuncular Joe Biden. So I think in some ways he will always be, because he can pull it off now, underestimated as to the ruthlessness that it takes to become president of the United States or major U.S. senator. So there's that in this too. So let me get intriguing here and just say, how much is he behind all of this and them going after the Ukraine thing and what was done to his son, etc. I'm just playing, fiction writer.
Yeah, well, that's what Tucker was saying. Now you're finally on the page with Tucker.
Oh, help me, please. Don't put me on. But of course. There's nothing wrong with saying that. The fact of the matter is, that's who needs to be president of the United States. Hate to say it. So I don't have a problem with ruthlessness.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, he'd be inhuman if he didn't let his personal feelings cloud this a bit. I mean, they did go after his son and
ruined his son's life. Really ruined his son's life because he will forever be. The messed up son of.
Well, he did a very good job of messing up his own life.
Well, I'll give him that, but he's also an addictive personality, which is not the same thing as being, something else. So, I agree. Right. So, they had lost his mother in a car accident, and he'd survived.
No, look, I know him a bit, as I think I've said. I have sympathy for the plight of any addict. I'm just saying, I'm just agreeing with you. This is a very tangled web.
Yes, very. And so we don't see many of these. So this will be very interesting to see how this plays out. We move forward. I do want to discuss very briefly. You brought up Joe Manchin. I just want to bring him up again. I've been back and forth on Joe. And saying he's a lot of bluster, but he's not a lot. I'm starting to get worried about Joe Manchin. Are you getting worried about Joe Manchin? I don't think he's wearing his power with style and grace. Hey, I like that one. You got anything?
Interesting. Well, just explain more what you mean.
Well, Well, first of all, he times what he says to major events. Like last night, he came out with the mounting agenda. And he's been doing this. I mean, he's just got it down to a science. There's nothing that Joe Biden does that Joe Manchin doesn't make a statement of, either right before or right after whatever it is that Biden does. And, he's throwing his weight around a lot. And he's saying, I'm all for this and I'm all for that and I'm all for whatever, except everything he's doing is obstructive and obstruction. None of it amounts to anything yet because we haven't gotten to where we are, but certainly on the filibuster, that's an issue. I just think he is not, his wife was up for education, secretary assistant. She didn't get it. I forget who they gave it to, but it wasn't her. So now he may have a second bone to pick. I don't know. But is he a dyed in the wool? He will remain a Democrat, Matt?
Yeah, I don't think at all he's going to switch parties. He's, in that sense, And look, he's got, Democrats haven't won in a single county more than 10 years. I mean, it's
But by nature, it's my old state. I can tell you, they're really Democrats. They got screwed up and they got manipulated. But
I know, but now they've been manipulated to super Trumpian proportions.
In certain counties, not in all. I mean, I want to, you said that counties, I want to be very clear about that. There's a certain part of the state that's true of and that has a good voting bloc. But if you go to the Eastern Panhandle, and a couple of other of the college towns across the state, that isn't true. But they're getting it in the low educated mine counties. That's where they're winning the votes.
Well, I'm just saying that is the breakdown. I mean, I know there's some more liberal pockets in the
major,
closer to D.C. and stuff, but you understand.
But Lewisburg, and
I'm just saying when you've got knuckleheads who think Joe Manchin be primary from the left and threaten that way, it's a little fakaked.
But I'm worried about him. I don't want to spend much more time on it, but I am worried.
If I worried, you mean he's going to vote against Biden? He's going to kill everything Biden's trying to do? I don't think that would happen.
Okay, all right. I'm glad. That makes me feel better.
I think it's going to have to. I think this is going to have to be out a while. They're going to have to at least try to make a deal with Republicans and placate Manchin, and then I think we'll know if Manchin's ready to say, we tried,
right? Because I think that's fair. Right. I think that's fair.
Yeah, we tried, but they really are unreasonable, so let's just get this done. He votes with Democrats.
Okay.
Or, miraculously, he pulls in a couple of Republicans. I don't know. I don't think that happens, but we'll see. But I don't think I don't actually Manchin's motivations. I mean, I think he likes the attention of a pivotal guy.
That's what I'm saying.
But he doesn't want to be the pivotal guy. I think he really would prefer that a couple of Republicans came over on this thing.
So you're giving him more credit than I give him credit. As governor, he was not always loved.
Yeah, well, I'm sure not.
So he's capable of he's got a huge ego. Huge, just massive ego. So let's leave it there for now, and then we'll pick him up again because this is just the beginning of his his ability to just stand in the way of things. I want to go to COVID. A couple of things I want to mention about that. Dr. Lena Wen, who's I don't know, is it NBC she's on or CNN? I never remember, but she's quite a brilliant lady. She took umbrage with Biden in the mask of the speech last night and saying it sent the wrong and the separation and not people who've been vaccinated couldn't be in the same room. She thinks it's sending the wrong message. I'm just curious as to what you think.
Well, I don't know. I think it's probably better for public figure. You might have some influence to kind of err on the side of caution. There's no downside to caution, even if it's a tad theatrical. And,
vaccine doses have been dipping for the last 3 days now by huge numbers, and so that's not a good thing. And I actually spoke to two people who have not been vaccinated, who are in their late 40s, early 50s, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Particularly in this state, by the way, where, COVID is on the rampage, and it's that weird version of COVID.
Yeah.
And there is no answer other than, I don't trust them. They could be putting a thing that they'll be able to follow me wherever I go. I mean, crazy answers from people. Just crazy, or just lazy answers, which is, well, you got to go here to get it. I don't want to go. People are just, it's really not a good thing. And particularly when you see funeral pyres in India. Oh my God, Matt, did you see those photos? They're just, I don't even know why they're showing. You haven't seen them.
I haven't seen them, but I can imagine.
On morning television. Morning television, like miles and acres of bodies being burned in funeral pyres. I mean, it's just bizarre. Should that not give people enough understanding why they need to be vaccinated? Folks, look what's happening in India. The other part of that, then there's an Andrew Cuomo thing. This nursing home story is just, I don't know what to do with that story. Because I understand where they were coming from on the one hand. They didn't want to panic people. On the other hand, I don't understand. But you got anything on that real quick?
Well, I just glanced at the story about, to the degree they were trying to deceive and manipulate for the purpose of, making Brecker look better. It's pretty awful.
If that's what they were doing, or they were doing, or maybe the motives were not that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd want to know more.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
And I don't know how certain they were at the time of cause of death of everything. I mean, I think this all happened at once, and you're dealing with people who died, were pretty close to death anyway. So there's a certain.
It's a complex story. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I want to know more about it.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I anything that's gone on in this whole thing. Because Trump screwed it up so badly. And, he is the leader at the time, trying to make it's like no big deal. It's going away. You won't even have a case in a couple. There's a lot here. It's just not a black and white situation, where you can hold anybody accountable in those early days. And particularly in New York, that got just, screwed big time.
Yeah.
With no help from the feds and no understanding about what was about to hit them. And then it hit, and then there they were. So, I wanted to put that out there. Not to excuse. I just want more information, like you said. Give me more information. Right. Important.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Because, we've learned so much. I mean, it wasn't that long infecting their grocery bags, thinking.
Right, exactly.
COVID from that, and now in the case. I mean, of course, that transmission outside is very difficult, and you're really packed in and talking for an hour. So you sort of need to know what they were thinking, what they knew about the science, etc. And that'll feel like
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're on the same page on that one. The other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly is this: getting back to normal. Getting back to normal is a tough thing. It appears
because
people are housebound, still a little scared. Don't 100% trust what they're hearing. You become a homebody pretty easily, it appears. And there's something good about that, Right. So there are all these issues, and it's really interesting to me to see how people are responding. And a lot of people have said to me, I'm vaccinated fully, blah, 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 blah. I'm not quite ready to go out.
Well, it's interesting because you're in Florida. And
yeah.
Everybody was like out, partying in the street.
Oh, no.
Clubbing.
Well, that may be down in South Florida where it's another nightmare again because the cases are so. Yeah, but I'm talking about middle-aged, older people who, who have been vaccinated and they seem to be very scared.
They don't want to go to Publix.
Yeah, they just don't want to get back into a normal life. I mean, they'll go to Publix. They've been doing that right along. But do they want to have parties? Do they want to go to restaurants? Do they, and eat indoors? And do they want to go to a concert? Do they want to do this, do that, do the next thing? People are reluctant. Just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, I think we're going to need PSAs, like get people to go out.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. When it's safe. Liz Cheney, we're in lightning round, so here we go. Liz Cheney thinking about running for president? What do you think? Is that true? Not true? Bull crap? Does she have a...
I have no idea, but, and plausible. Every politician in Congress thinks about it at some point. Sure, why not? I don't know what party she's running, but I don't think you can be that anti-Trumpian.
A Republican.
At least not right now.
Boy, for them to get a third party that is truly centrist,
Yeah.
Would be
a long way from that.
Yeah, but Navalny, is there any, you brought him up early on, is there, where he's in, it's just kind of off the radar again, and I'm not happy with that, because I feel this has just been a horrid story. But
yeah, well, I guess, I only reports, but I guess it sounds like that, he's walked back from the brink, right? I mean,
they're force feeding him. Yeah, I think it's what
they're force feeding him.
Yeah.
He's not, he's not on the verge of keeling over, but it remains a precarious situation, and even the Soviets let Sakharov, the dissident physicist, time in exile without this crap. I don't think Putin wants the guy to die, but if the guy ever let loose again, I'm sure the administration's warnings have been pretty serious. I thought Trump would mention him by name.
Trump?
I'm not Trump, excuse me, Biden. Sorry.
I caught you. See, I'm not that sick.
Yeah, you're good. You're sharp.
I think the thing is that Biden made a phone call, and we know about the phone call because it had to do with Ukraine too. And so two things happened. Navalny was transferred to a different place, and they pulled back from Ukraine, troops back from Ukraine. So, good old Joe. Val Demers, we brought her up last week. She seems open to running either or. Governorship seems to be where she... Yeah, we could sure use her down here because this wacko gets wackier by the day. I mean, he is just nuts, Mr. DeSantis.
Yeah, I mean, she seems like she'd be a very strong candidate. And again, as I think we talked about, I'm a little more bullish on the Dems down there. I don't think it's a lost cause.
Well, they're going to have to pump a lot of bucks. But I am saying this, that one thing that's different here is that the legislature, where the Democrats have been just, mealy-mouthed little idiots for the last, couple of years or few years, are not just sitting back and letting them be crazy. They're opening mouths. And I'm glad to see that because they were just so defeated. They weren't doing anything. Something happened, I want to talk right near where you live. What's with this Havana syndrome? And there was an event right near the White House.
Oh gosh, you're ahead of me.
You don't know about that? That thing where they don't know what happened? It first happened at the embassy in Havana and then a few other places. And people are...
Maybe some kind of sonic weapon or something.
Yeah, and their brains are going kaflooey and all that. Well, there was an event right around the corner from the White House, or right at the White House. They've been very non-specific, but they did say it was in D.C. Right near you.
Oh my God.
Be careful.
I have an alibi.
Be careful.
I have an alibi.
That's terrifying what's going on. And it's one thing for it to be happening on foreign soil. Now it's happening on American soil. I don't like this one at all. We need to do some, real looks into this. Gavin Newsom has a recall coming, but his majority, favor his handling of the school reopenings and the economy right now. And maybe they're looking at him and saying, maybe you're not so bad. We don't want...
the COVID rate is now the
lowest in the country. Right.
So, lowest. So...
And maybe they don't want Jenner to run against...
He'll survive it. I just think it's, you get a little... You don't know who's going to show up at this kind of snap election. The haters are a little more motivated, so... you can't take it for granted, but he's not doing that. He's fighting hard, and I think he'll get through it. I mean, there's, California's nuts. There's too much democracy with these, all these ballot propositions.
California's a nut. Before there was crazy Florida, there was crazy California.
That's the thing. Yeah. Well,
keep it in perspective. James Carville.
Yes.
I love James Carville. They pull him out every once in a while, like they're dusting him off.
Yeah.
But he did say something very smart, which is this wokeness thing in the Democratic Party is a problem. And it is, in my opinion. What do you say?
No, I totally agree. And, I listened to his podcast with Al Hunt, formerly of the Wall Street Journal, about politics, called Politics Forum, and he's been doing this rant for a long time. So I was glad to see he did an interview with the Fox in which he aired all these things, and I do agree with him. His basic point was, look, a lot of this woke language is backfiring on Democrats. It comes off to a lot of people as condescending. When you use more exotic phrases like Latinx, which, according to surveys, only 3% of Hispanics use. It's really kind of a faculty lounge kind of language and politics that he thinks is really hurting the Democrats. And I thought he made a pretty good case about it. I think he said, the party's got to keep fighting for, racial justice and all kinds of other things. But, phrases like defund the police, are incredibly toxic.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I thought what he said was common sense. He got pushback from lefty on Twitter and whatnot, but I think I understand. He's saying something that's true.
It is true. It is true. And pay attention, Democrats. Don't be stupid. The guy knows what he's talking about. The former guy's support is waning. So I suspect that sooner or later, if he's not indicted himself, he'll be on the road. So I just thought I don't know what that means. I mean, he's just out of power, so he doesn't have Twitter. So, maybe he just goes gently into the good night. Wouldn't that be? I'm going to bring this up, but I don't know if we have time to talk about it. John Kerry supposedly gave Israeli secrets to Iran. I don't know. I don't like Kerry's whole approach to Iran, so I have an issue with that. But if that's true, that's not a good thing.
Well, Kerry's been dealing with intelligence and classified info for close to 40 years, longer if you include his service Navy. I really would find it.
I would too, but I don't. I
casual about that. Look, a lot of people don't like him because they don't like the Iran deal, and I get that. But that's I would be shocked if that happened.
I hope you're right. We have to leave, but we say happy 88th to Willie Nelson. That is unbelievable. I can't believe Willie Nelson's 88. Nope, can't.
I'll have what he's having.
Yeah, right? Had a lot of it. And happy 10th anniversary to Wills and Kate. That went fast. That's it from here, folks. Yeah. Anything for you?
Right.
You got anything?
No, I'm all good here.
Goodbye, darling. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec, LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.